It's all over me.
Hello, welcome to Tea Time with Amie and Bev
Good
and our
morning.
wonderful, bright, shining smiles. If you're watching the video, if you're not watching the video, you're missing out. Just saying.
Yeah, the audio just doesn't do it justice.
No, because you miss out on our facial expressions, and I get animate. Like I get my arms and hands and going everywhere. Bev's all calm sitting in her chair, and I'm just like all over the place. So, you're just missing all that. But facial expressions can say a lot.
Yeah, mine say a lot too.
Yeah, how many times have you gotten in trouble where you're trying to keep back what you really want to say, but your face is already saying it, and you're like,
Yeah,
"Oh, I'm so busted."
yeah. Because I can't fake it.
Yeah, you can't.
No, I used to think that I could, but it's like I can't.
Nope. So then you might as well just say what you're going to say because
It- It's true.
you've already given it away.
It's true.
So funny. What's going on? I ask you this every week. What's going on? Were you asking me that?
I said, "How's it going?" You say, "What's going on?" So how's it going, Amy?
We could hear and we're like, we have no idea. Even just before I hit record, Bev's like, I have no idea what we're going to talk about today. We never do. We never do. We just start talking and we go with wherever it's going to go. So, um, let's see. I I'm learning. Well, okay. So here's something that purpose. Here we go. Okay, purpose. I'm gonna go in a I don't know in a deeper state, and then we're gonna pull it up out of that, okay? Because I just want to set that so people don't think I'm just starting off being negative and all that. We get in those spaces. Bev and I have talked about many times, how earlier in our life, like we seriously didn't even want to be on this planet. We didn't. I'm speaking for myself. But I know Bev did too. I contemplated suicide every day from the time I was 14 years old till my late 30s. Okay, that's a long time to think about that. I never actually, to be honest with you, I didn't have the guts to attempt suicide. But I also held my vision with the people who I couldn't hurt. Okay, that was like the most intense thing I could do is if I did this, who are the people that are close to me that would hurt the most? That's what kept me going. Okay, so what I recognize, and this is where I want to bring you up and out of that state, whether it's just like a moment of depression or you're going deeper than that, is I didn't have a faith. I didn't have anything to believe in greater than myself. Because of the things I experienced, I lost that belief in any kind of higher source. At that time in my life, only thing anybody talked about was God. And that's all I knew, but I didn't know because I wasn't raised with a religious background. I didn't go to church. And um, I, of course, blame God for the things that happened to me. And if God is all knowing and omniscient and omnipresent and all loving and all of that, why would he allow these things to happen to me? And I didn't get that. So I disconnect. Like I wouldn't even tell somebody bless you. Right? I was like, if somebody sneezed, I just looked the other way. It's like I ain't even going, I'm not even making any kind of connection to anything that relates to God because I was so mad. I was so much anger. When I started my journey in my late 20s, 28 to be exact, when I started my journey at 28, I call it my conscious spiritual journey. And I started looking more into what life, or learning, not looking into, but learning more about what life was all about. Okay, here's some things to think about. And you can give me your input too, Bev, on the deeper side, not the bright side yet. Okay, I don't want to go to the bright side yet. I want to be in this other side. If we have all this crappy shit going on, and we were taught, I think things are changing now, but we were taught, or this is what my perception was based on my friends who did go to church when I was growing up. Not now, but when I was growing up. And this would be the 70s and 80s and 90s, right? In that area from the 70s to the 90s to my younger days. And so with all of this crap going on, and learning in church, this is now secondhand because I didn't go to church, remember, that every week you're told you're a sinner for separating from God, then what the hell is the purpose of life? Why? Why are we here? Why are we experiencing all this crap? Why are we, even witnessing some of the things that we've witnessed or experienced some of the things we experienced? Why are we even here? So what is your input in the way you looked at that, if you ever questioned that? Not the lighter side. Don't go to the lighter side yet.
Gil, that's not easy for me.
I know it's not easy for me too, because I want to go right there, but I want to set the foundation of going to that lighter side. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But it's trying to recollect an energy, or almost like because it was an energy. I totally isolated myself from everybody. I didn't feel like I could depend on anybody. I was it. And a lot of times when some of these things would happen, I would just bulldoze through it, or I would over focus on things. So, which I've been kind of told that's another sign of depression, is when you're stuffing all the time and you just kind of push past it. My thing was, I was always quiet about a lot of stuff. I would cry in the shower by myself. I didn't want to be here. I certainly didn't. There's no way. I didn't have faith. My mom had taken me to church when we were little. I don't have any recollection of it. It was never, none of that stuff was ever my draw, It just wasn't a comfortable thing. Plus, I was also taught, because I was molested by my grandfather. We were going through Jehovah's Witness, and my mom pulled us out of that when we were little, my sister and I, and because the grandfather that had done this had been accepted by the church and was allowed to come in there, they just didn't do anything about it. They didn't represent or stand up for any of us. She just didn't like that, so she pulled us out of it. So from my experience as far as religion goes, it wasn't good because they're judgmental. They weren't protected. It was all these millions of things for the church part. But for the rest of the part, I felt like I was like isolated on this planet. It was just me. I didn't have. I'm just now at a point now where to even allow someone else to, for me to talk to somebody else. And I don't say that right, because it's like we're trying to stay in that space, but it's like it just was an unhappy time. And when you're in that space, it seems like the people that come around you are unhappy. The friends that I had, my husband will tell you that we were parallel. We didn't share things together, but we would kind of run together. You know what I mean? There was no connection, but besides maybe drugs at the time, or because I was always, my escapism was drinking. So early on, as a teenager, I would drink excessively till I blacked out. That was the only way that I drank. I always did that. So, for me, I was hiding from everything. I didn't want to feel any of the stuff. And when I was sober, I was just angry. And I was always pointing the finger at somebody else. And yeah, I will tell you, there were several times that I just hated God. But it's like, because you wanted to blame somebody. Someone had to be at blame for the way that you felt.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. And it's contemplating. Okay. So we're contemplating in those times. My questions were, the question I wanted answered the most was, is this all there is to life? Because I was so angry and having the experiences. Is this all there is to life? Why do we give so much attention to wanting to be loved? Why do we give so much attention to what we think the value of money is? Why do we give so much attention to needing all the material things? Why do we give so much attention to being right, getting it right? Right? There's so much we give our attention to. And then I think, why? Right? And if you listen to our other podcasts or recordings, we've had these conversations in a different way.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at is life. What is life about? And it made, so I'm going to go lighter now because we can't stay in this dark space, but I want to bring the awareness to you that if you're contemplating or, you know, having these internal questions and you're not getting the answers, or you feel like nothing makes sense, then you're not, I mean, we're never alone. Somebody has experienced or somebody has thought about what you've thought about. Somebody else has been an alcoholic. Somebody else has been addicted to drugs. Somebody else has been divorced. Somebody else has lost a child or a partner or loved one. Somebody in your life has had these experiences, but it's the deeper questions. And we don't have a lot of times, we don't have the people in our lives to have these conversations with because they don't get it. They don't understand. Why are you thinking that way? Why are you asking those questions? Because they don't have the answers. But those are your circle of go-to people, whether they're friends or family, co-workers, acquaintances. Like, they're not in that level of thinking. Does that make sense?
You know, it does, but I'll have to go back. You were asking questions. I didn't ask questions. I didn't know. I don't think I even understood to ask questions. So if you look back at our podcast, and probably the last couple of years, I'd be like telling people all the time, you need to ask questions, ask as many questions as possible, because that was my learning now. I didn't have that back then. I just knew to plow through. I got depressed. I buried. I hid my emotions with anger. I would, you know, silently cry in the shower, because that was a place I'd disappear and to allow anything to escape from me. Which in hindsight's not such a bad thing, because really crying in the shower is releasing it. You're not dumping all that energy into your pillow and your bed or whatever, you know, it's cleansing. But it's like, I didn't ask questions. I didn't ask any questions. I ask questions now all the time. So that's why I try to, sometimes maybe they're in a depressed space because they haven't even started asking the questions. You know, maybe it's just so basic that's the first step, is just learning to ask the questions. Of course, later on, it's learning how to receive that, because even still, if you notice and that's something to recognize too. If you're always willing to do something for somebody else, or give for someone else, or do for someone else, you're probably not a good receiver. You're a good giver, you're just probably not a good receiver. So I mean, that's all like a process. You were already asking questions. I wasn't. You know, I think probably around 25 or 27, 28, that's when or around that time, that's when I found The Secrets. You know, it was actually presented for me to make copies of it, so that I had listened to it. But otherwise, I never looked at anything in any positive way. I didn't ask questions. I don't even remember asking questions from The Secret, you know, which is kind of crazy, because I think maybe that's part of what it was missing then, you know, asking these questions about yourself, because that, before you can even set yourself up to receive all this stuff, you haven't even started asking questions. You have no understanding. I had none.
And that's a great point. Is from when I okay, so the being abandoned by my biological father, then my mom marrying into an abusive relationship, and then a second abusive relationship, and then being molested, like, all of that just added up to so much anger in me that when I was molested at 14, that's when, like, the anger and the shame and guilt got so deep, and that's when I start questioning, is this all there is to life?
And my question was, why is this happening to me? How come it happened to me and it didn't happen to my sister? Which is such a horrible thing to think about when you're an adult. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm glad it didn't happen to her, but it's like, at the time, I was that child, and those would have been probably, I mean, as soon as you started saying that, is what popped into my head, because those were I didn't understand why me.
And then we went through the phases of trying to bury that, but that
Oh, yeah.
question stayed with me. So I wasn't raised in a church. or with a church or with a religious family. I did visit in my teen years. I visited different churches. So I visited the Baptist and the Christian and the born again Christian and the Mormon and like I visited all the, but when I sat there and listened to the services, they were not giving me the information I was seeking. But I kept asking. And when I look back on my life, I am very persistent in keep showing up. No matter how painful it is, and no matter how much I don't want to do it or didn't want to do it, I kept showing up. Because I knew within me there was something greater happening, but I didn't understand it. But I kept asking the question, is this all there is to life? Is this all? That was my question. I didn't have the other questions. They were just coming up as I was saying them. But my question was, is this all there is to life? And at that time, keep in mind, it was all the anger, shame, and guilt that I was hanging on to. And am I going to live the rest of my life being this person, experiencing shit like this for the rest of my life? Why would I want to stay on this planet? Why? It makes no sense to me. And then to visit these different facilities to tell me that I separated from God and I was wrong in doing that. Like it didn't matter what direction I went in, I was being blamed, right? And I was being shamed, and I was being like, you're nothing type of thing. Those were the messages I was receiving. That's the way I was perceiving it. And when I started that first book at 28 and I read it, and it opened me up to the world of spirit. And I kept reading these books and processing this information. It made so much freaking sense to me that this is just a life out of many lives. And if I am in each life to learn something, first of all, like a specific like topic, then it's going to affect going into the next life, or just going into spirit to be somebody's guide. Like when all of that world opened up to me, that is what made sense. Those were the answers to my questions, because it resonated to me in such a deep level. Even though I read one book, I was just like, holy crap, people are talking about this. This is so amazing. It was like my whole world shifted, and I wanted to learn more. I wanted to soak it up. I wanted to like, I was asking more and more questions at a very rapid rate from one book. And the information was coming to me so fast. I was overwhelmed with the amount of information coming to me. And it was based on spirituality. It was not based on religion. I was getting the answers I was seeking that made sense and resonated with me from these books I was reading, not by the teachings of my religious friends. If you're religious, please understand, I'm not here to knock you or tell you you're wrong or change the way you believe in anything that you have. If that is working for you, stay with it, have your faith, and move with it through your life in the way it feels good for you. I am telling you how my answers came and how life made more sense to me, because I knew there was something in me that said there is more to this life than what you're experiencing. And that was not the questions I was asking. Is there more to this life is there more to life than this? That was my question. And then these books started coming to me. And the books I'm talking about are books by Sylvia Browne, John Holland, Sylvia Choquette, Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Louise Hay, right? I mean, Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, like all this information, Lynn Taggart, all this information was coming at me at such a rapid pace. I couldn't soak it up fast enough but it was so incredibly amazing to me that this information was out there, and nobody around me knew about it. Nobody around me knew about it. Not one person.
You know, it's kind of crazy to me as you're telling me all this stuff, and for us, because we've known each other for a while now, I don't think there's anything that can stop your progression, period. I didn't have these books. I wasn't, and we've talked about our experiences, and there's been parallels in our lives, whether it was positive or perceived positive or negative. I mean, almost like at the same time frame, a lot of the stuff. So it's like for me, these things are going to progress anyways. They really are. There's no stopping it. There's no stopping it. I just don't think that there is. It's going to be presented to you, and at some point you're going to be at a place, and maybe it is being at as low as you can to recognize that, hey, there could be something different. You talked about the religion stuff, and the only thing that I would say towards anybody, because I had gone back when my kids were like, I don't know, I was probably like 22 years old, and this couple had, I don't know how I met them, but we hadn't met, and maybe they came to the door at some point. So they ended up talking to me in the church, and we would meet like weekly for Bible study or whatever, which that wasn't my draw. It wasn't my draw, but I went ahead and got, baptized Christian. And as we're talking about this stuff, I realized it was my people pleasing, because it wasn't for me. None of that I did then was for me. And that's what I would tell anybody. You're great. If you're going to church and religion is your way, I say that we find our paths many different ways. So there's no limit on that, but make sure, check with yourself and ask yourself, is this for me? Am I doing this for me, or am I doing this for others? Am I doing this because I'm worried about someone else looking at me and judging me because I don't do this, and because all of my family does it? Just kind of check in with yourself and see, because a lot of times I feel like we're doing things just to please others. And again, that's just us paying attention to ourselves and slowing down and noticing that. You said something about when you were talking about stuff about the religion and everything else, like there was something wrong, like there was, like no matter what you did, it was going to be the wrong thing, basically. And to me, what I've learned even more recently is there's nothing wrong with me.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with me besides my beliefs. There's nothing wrong with my hair besides my beliefs. There's nothing wrong. It's such a simple statement, simply ridiculous is how it feels to me, because it's so simple, because there's nothing wrong. The more that I see that there is a problem, only I see that there is a problem.
Right.
Really. And that's why they would even say, people look at themselves in the mirror and they think that they're ugly or whatever, and other people think that they don't see the same thing that you're looking at, because you're looking at it with such scrutiny. And not you in general, but a lot of us have. We look at ourselves because we've judged ourselves against other people, because we've listened to what other people that we're worthless. And it's taken my whole life to almost to now to realize there's nothing wrong with me. I'm freaking perfect. I'm perfectly made, period. You're perfectly made. We all are. The only person that sees it as a problem is you as an individual. And if it's somebody that you're with that's in your near vicinity, then you probably could go the different direction, because you just got to love yourself more.
No, you can go a different direction. It's a choice.
It is a choice. It totally is a choice. So you can either stay or you can go. But yeah.
Well, I'm bringing this up because recently in the book study that I facilitate, I think I mentioned this either last week or the week before. She said, I thought, because we read books just as a foundation for you to understand as the audience, in my book study, we read books based on personal development and spirituality. That's it. And she's been in the book study for probably a couple years now. And her comment was, I thought I was doing so good, and then. And she tells me this victim type story. And then the other day I did card reading for somebody, and her main question was, what's my purpose? She was so down. Both of them were so down on themselves, which I could totally relate, because I've been there for many years. And we're okay. We're okay with right where we're at, with whatever's going on. Anything that we're experiencing, it's based on our perception of the situation. First and foremost, we've talked about that many times. We're okay where we're at. But the idea that being opened to a world of spirituality, which includes we have life after life after life, if we choose to, from our spiritual space with source, we get to choose to come back into a physical form, and to know that this life is going to affect my next life. And that one piece of information is what kept me focused and moving in a different direction, away from feeling like my life was all crappy. Moving away, not moving, I say moving away from, what I mean is I'm moving from the space of the anger, shame, and guilt to more of a space of interest. First of all, I needed to be have interest in myself of why I was operating the way I was operating. And so interested in myself instead of expecting somebody else to be interested in me. I needed to be interested in me. Why am I operating this way? Why do I have these habits? Why am I thinking this way? Why do I have these belief systems? Where did they come from, right? Learning about myself and continuing to move from that learning and interested space to I'm okay. I'm pretty damn good. I'm perfect the way I am. Doesn't matter what I say or what my facial expression looks like, or what clothes I wear, or how screwed up my makeup might be, or if I put my clothes on backwards. I am perfect the way I am because I was created in the eyes of source, from the eyes of God. Yes, I do say God, and yes, I do have belief in God, in a higher source, in the divine, in the universe, whatever you want to call it. And knowing it felt, here's where Bev and I talk about this every single week. Go with what feels good. As a side note, I have several clients, students, friends who grew up in with a religious family, and as very young people, little children, questioning the adults of what was being taught because it didn't make sense to them as a child. That when they became adults, they decided that yes, they still had the faith in God, but not in the teachings or the way it was being taught or the way it was being interpreted. So go with what feels good to you. That's what Bev and I tell you every single time, but I know within myself what felt good to me was to know I am a spirit and body that was divinely created by source, God, universe, the divine, and it is 100%, no questions asked, exclamation points, pure love. And if that is what feels good to me and that is my belief system, then I know that I am 100% exclamation points, pure love. I have that already within me. And that I am coming, or I am choosing to come so far. I don't know how many lives, but I've had many lives. And if I choose to continue with my lives, then meaning coming back into physical body, meaning I'm going to transition from physical body back to spirit and then come back into a physical body. If I choose to continue to do that, this life, I want to be the best person that I can be with the information and knowledge that I have right now. And I know that every day, every moment, I can keep getting better and better and better. But what I can tell you for 100% guarantee within myself, I'm 100% better than I was. And if I was to die today, if I was to transition today, I would feel really good about that. I treat people better. I'm nice to people. I speak more positively towards people. I am not I have a moment of sarcasm here and there, but not like I was, because through that sarcasm, I was putting people down. I was rude. I had the resting bitch face. I was ornery. I was stubborn. I was angry, right? All of that stacked up. That's not who I am. Like, I am completely on the different spectrum of that. And right now, if I was to transition, I would know that going into my next life, I am going in with a whole um a bigger expansion, because I learned so much and I grew from it. I didn't stay stuck in it.
Nice. I would say purpose. You have people, wondering purpose, and that means they're already asking the questions. They don't realize it, but they're already asking the questions, and the answers are going to come. For me, I thought purpose was a huge thing, like it was like the mission that I was here from God. But it's not like that.
No.
There's a million different things. It's like you just described a lot of things. It's being nicer to people. It's being more positive. It's being uplifting. It's being happy. It's because that affects people so much more. It's how we treat people, that our kids and everybody around us see how to treat people or act, or there's just so much. Like, purpose is so many million, it's a million tiny things that make up a big thing. It's not just one thing, and it's whatever makes you happy. If you're happy with doing massage for a while, do massage, and then if you're no longer happy with doing that, then go on to the next thing, whatever that looks like. I know we've talked about your son, and he was going into different positions, here and there, and he didn't stay in the space longer than it needed to be. He stayed there long enough to learn he was happy in that space until it was stagnant, or I mean, I don't know exactly what the reason, but for me, it's like, it's when the place becomes stagnant, or you're doing the same repetitive thing all the time, because we're not meant to do the same thing over and over and over again. That's not what we're here for. I don't feel like that's what we're here for. You talk about, and I used to have the same exact beliefs. We talked about, our lives and stuff like that. And I feel like we have more parallel lives going on. I mean, I feel like everything's happening at one time, our past, present, and our future. It's all happening at one time on other timelines. And I feel like even if we die in this timeline, we're still alive in the other timelines. And everything that we do that's good for us on this timeline helps us on all the other timelines. So that's like, there's like a lot of purpose in that. If I'm worried about hair, then there's probably someone in one of my other timelines that's having that I'm kind of connecting with. I'm connecting with that energy. These are my beliefs. But it doesn't have to be that way. I've just had so many freaking crazy dreams since Jim has passed, and they're like all neutral. I have seen him like extreme addicted to gambling and everything else, and it was as if I was witnessing as it's happening. I'm like, you're gonna kill yourself. You've already died. This is gonna kill you. I've seen him as young and happy. I've seen him in other places where I saw him in it just recently, that he looked like a very old man, lonely and unhappy. So it's like, I feel like we have all these levels, and I feel like we still influence or have an impact on everybody on all those levels, how we are now. So like we were talking last week, when I apologize or I say to Jim, like, I'm sorry that I was this way. I'm sorry I didn't recognize, how much you were helping, but I recognize how we both helped each other, or how we both hindered each other. So I talk about those things, to myself or to him or whatever, like forgiving myself and forgiving him. Because I still think that, yeah, he's in a good place, that energy, because we're energy first and foremost, beyond our physical beings. But it's like, he's still alive on another timeline. So it's like, and we're probably together on those other timelines, because I've seen that in some of the spaces. It's the strange thing for me to describe all this stuff, because it's as if I'm watching a lifetime on another level. I have no physical attachment to the energies or anything, but I'm witnessing it, and I'll rationalize, or I'll be questioning, well, why are you feeling this way? Because in this, where I'm at now, this is not, whatever the thing was, I'll be like questioning it, like, why are you doing that? You can do something better. Or, one of the things he said to me is he didn't want to be unhappy anymore. He said, I was tired of being angry. because I said, I don't want to lose you. Or I never wanted to lose you is what I said. And he said, I just got tired of being angry and running around. Like I was rushing around all the time. And really, it was true. It was really a true thing. So it's like, it's just recognizing all these things. When we look at things as our path or our purpose, there's like such a bigger thing. It's so simple as just being more happy with them, because if we're happy and our energy is higher with them, we're not lowering someone else's energy. Not that it's our responsibility, but we do have an effect on people. And we're more uplifting, we're more raising the energy, we're fixing so many things by just being in a joyful space, really. And that goes all the way back to what we talk about every week, like you said, is how we feel. How does it feel? And if it doesn't feel good, why are you doing it? And then really and it really goes back to asking questions. What you started the whole conversation with really is asking questions, simple questions. And we don't even realize it. And it may not be a question that we've put it into our minds, but it's a question that we've put out there by our experiences that are so uncomfortable or made us so unhappy that it's actually put out a request from our beings to see something different, to feel something better.
Yep. And we talked about recently that we energetically, we can clean up old energy earlier in this life and before. And it all matters what you're doing now. So if I'll speak for myself, if I stayed in that angry, shameful, guiltful space all these years, clear up till today, Bev and I would not have been able to, well, we may have been able to connect in a different way based on that information, the anger, the shame, and the guilt. But we would probably still be sitting in bars and drinking the alcohol and complaining about our life and all our woes and pointing the finger and blaming everybody else, right? We would still be in that space. So it's asking the questions, and like Bev said earlier, is to allow yourself to receive the answers. I asked that question from the time I got molested. Is this all there is to life? Because by 14, I had experienced all this other shit, the abuse, abandonment, and now molestation. And I'm like, why? Why would somebody be born into this and have to experience all this pain and then live with this until they die? And I don't know if I'm going to live to be 80, 90, 100. I don't know. Why would I want to carry all this pain with me for all these years until I die? That made no sense to me. At 14, it made no sense to me. And just asking, is there more to life than this? And so I pushed away receiving the information for so long because I disconnected from the source that could bring me that information. Because I was pissed at God. I was so mad at him that I wouldn't be able to even be in a space to receive that answer. But then something happens that gets our attention, like somebody saying, hey, I think it would be good for you if you read this book. And I did at 28. And everything opened up. And
Which
I
only
was
helped to connect with you,
Say
right?
it again.
Which all that stuff helped you to connect with you. It helped you to go more within.
It started that journey for sure. Yes. Yeah. Because that book led me to the next book, to right. This is what I say all the time. It's taking that one book. Now, I was at the time, and we've had this conversation too. I explained all this in another podcast. I think it was Past Lives Real. I think that was the podcast. But at the time this book was given to me, I was more into reading murder mysteries. And there was a reason, because that was um, a huge topic for one of my other lives, just so you know. So I was anything that had to do with murder. So Agatha Christie, I loved her books. I had almost every one of them, and her autobiography. I was reading those books like there was no tomorrow. Any moment I had, I was reading those books, and I was watching those kinds of shows, right? And and then this book by Sylvia Browne was given to me, and they said, I think you would enjoy this. I wasn't a reader other than these murder mysteries. I wasn't interested in reading when I was in school. I didn't like reading. The murder mysteries got my attention, so I was like on it. I was like, okay, I got this, right? I can read these. These are cool. And then this other book that was clear on a spectrum that I would never have picked up they said, here, read this book. I think you'll like it. And I did. And I haven't stopped since. The murder mysteries, it was like that book went down, the other book came up, and I haven't stopped. Like, I'm not even interested in, is it nonfiction? I get them confused, where it's just made up stories, right?
I think it's fiction, but I'm not
Fiction.
sure because
I
I do
always
this
get them mixed up. So you know what I mean? The stories that are made up, the murder mysteries, I don't read books like that anymore. They don't even interest me. There's not one of them. This is all the stuff that I love. And so when that new book came to me by Sylvia Browne, I went from that and just ran with it. And there was times when the information was coming to me so fast, by the time I understood what was happening, I could tell the universe. I'd be like, okay, I cannot read this fast. I can't, I mean, I probably could, but at the space that I was in, I couldn't soak up the information fast enough, but it was coming to me so fast. And I said, hey, universe, we gotta slow this roll here. Slow down, because this is coming to me way too fast, and I just cannot soak it in fast enough, right? Um, but then that one book led me into learning about spirit, energy, vibration, frequencies, auras, past lives, how we affect future lives, karma, being, life in between lives, like it, um, kinesiology, pendulums, angel cards. It's like this world opened up to me that was so amazing and so interesting, and gave me so many tools to go from that angry person to a person who actually enjoys life, who wants to bring the light into the room, who wants to because I was the person, my energy, when I walked into the room, if it was a joyful space, as soon as I walked into the room, it went down like 150%. Like, it was horrible. Like, the energy just went down.
Yeah.
And everybody was just like me, all cranky. And I'd be like, well, what's going on? It was me. It was me bringing that energy. I didn't have to say anything. I just walked into the room and it turned crappy, right?
Yeah.
So the information I received through all this knowledge, I'm excited about life now, because to me, I know that I know within me, because it feels good to believe this way, that what I do in this life is going to affect the next, or even just being in spirit, because being in spirit, I get to choose to be somebody's guide, right? As spirit. So spirit guides, you may have heard of that term, spirit guides, meaning I've lived a life, I've had these experiences, I've grown from them, I've learned from them, I've expanded in my knowledge and wisdom, and then let's say Bev and I transition, and then Bev says, you know what, I want to go do this again. And I'm like, all right, I'll be there with you, sister, but I'll be your spirit guide. I'm not going to go into physical form, but I'm going to be with her. And so then become that, because she's choosing a life of similarity of what I had, then I can be her guide and be one of many spirits that drops the nuggets and the information and the messages all over trying to guide her through her life. Even though we all have free will, we all get to choose. So I don't know where I was going with that, but here's what I want you to know. Have a faith in something greater than yourself. That's religion, a specific church, a specific group of people. Have something that you believe in greater than yourself that feels good. These are our keywords. We say them every single week. Feels good. If you're questioning it, if you're questioning your beliefs, if you're questioning the way people are acting or the way they're behaving, the words that they're saying, if you're questioning it, like, this kind of doesn't resonate with me, or I'm unsure, like, it's time to make a decision to do something different.
Yeah, no, you could ask, what's something bigger than myself that I can have faith in. You can start asking all kinds of questions, but being prepared, because that information is going to come to you. And some of the stuff may at first feel like that doesn't feel right to me. Well, then it doesn't feel right to you. Use your feelings as your gauge, because all it is kind of guiding you in. So when you experience the things that you don't really want in your life, it just kind of guides you into what you do want. It just kind of nudges you in that space. It's not anything harsh or anything like that. It's just simple. Feel it. It either feels good or it doesn't. It's that simple. All
It
of it.
really
It's
is.
like asking the question, which we've talked about, which I've talked about a lot to a lot of people, like asking questions. And you can ask them out loud. You can ask them to yourself. You can ask your universal team, your spirit guides, because the information's going to come to you. As soon as you relax your mind enough to allow it, or as soon as you are just in that space of receiving. And a lot of times that stuff will happen when you're just having a good time. You could be just listening to music. I mean, so having a pen and paper, whenever you're doing something like that, because it kind of guides you. If you don't have it, if you don't remember things, because I don't like it when I like, oh, I can't remember what that was I was gonna do, or what book did Amy say, or whatever. So I like to have a pen and paper around me at all times, because it helps guide, and then it helps me ask more questions. But our experiences help us ask more questions too. I mean, really, and that's just experiencing life. And if you're sitting in front of your TV every single day in and day out, and not living life, that you've limited your experiences. If you don't allow yourself to see outside of victim or anger or any of that stuff, you just immediately cut off the flow. It's not because the flow is not there. It's not because you're not worthy. It's because you think you're not worthy. You think you're not deserving. You're not allowing it. It's a choice. It's simple. I didn't allow it my whole life. And yes, our energy is contagious. I was the person, as you said too, walking into a space, holy whatever. But I'd walk in that space and it's like everybody would be in such a bad mood afterward. But that was if I had any of the knowledge that I had now back then, I would have known how easily I could change that energy around. Because if my energy when I was in that space could have such an effect over a group of people, my energy could have totally been different. I could have stayed out of that space, not gone into that space until I was in a good space in my heart, in my mind, in my body that felt good, and then went into that space with everybody else. Because even if they're not in a good mood, you would uplift them. Or you might notice that they just go ahead and leave, and it has nothing to do with you because it's their experience.
There's even, I just want to hit on this too. There's a multimillionaire business teacher that I follow, and he even says, "Are you the person who raises the energy in the room? Are you or are you the person who lowers the energy in the room.
And then asking the question, how can I? If
How
you're
can
the
I?
person that lowers it, how can I raise it? How can my energy when I walk into a space uplift everybody? It doesn't matter if it's a huge stadium full of people. It doesn't matter if it's a grocery store. It doesn't matter if it's a one-on-one. How can I? Because it'll be shown to us because we can do anything. That's the whole thing. We can do anything, anything. And that's one of the things I keep telling myself. I can do anything. That's so huge. It's so simple, but it's so huge because it covers I mean, I can do anything, whatever I choose. No blocks.
Yeah, you just open yourself up to the possibilities. There may be things you don't want to do, and that's okay, but just opening up to the possibilities that I could if I wanted to.
That's right.
I
But you're
could
still
if
going to
I
be guided.
wanted to.
Yep. It's a choice.
So I'll give you a nugget of one thing that helped me be more joyful. And that was simply to laugh at myself. I say simply laugh at myself. That was not easy to do, by no means, because I was a perfectionist and a fixer and a people pleaser and seeking love and seeking acceptance and holding on to the shame and the guilt and the anger. So how does somebody like that laugh at themselves? All right. So just
Yeah.
saying, that's not an easy, that was for me, it wasn't an easy task to do. But anytime we start something new, we have to keep practicing it in order to get better. So last week, I posted on my Facebook page a picture where I have this little 5-cup coffee pot, right? And I put the filter in and I put the water in and I turned it on. I was like, okay, so when I come out from getting ready for my day, it'll be ready. I come out, I look at the pot and it's clear water. I was like, what the hell? So I opened it up. I didn't put the coffee in. So I took a picture of it and I posted it on Facebook. I said, this is a great example of not being in the present moment. Now, in years past, I would just put myself down. Excuse me, I would have put myself down,
Yeah.
right? And be pissed. Really,
Yeah.
what I would have done. That day last week, I laughed. Those are the things I'm talking about. The things that you do. You take the gallon of milk and you walk to the pantry to put it away when you know it goes in the fridge. I stand there and I laugh. I'm like, I'll laugh. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. I did this. And I turn and put it in the fridge. What happens is when you get into that space of beating yourself up, you're in that space of stress. You're sending a message to your body. We need to be stressed right now. We need to be in that fight or flight right now because I'm upset, I'm angry, I'm pissed, whatever story you're telling, just because you didn't put the coffee in the filter before you started it, right? So when you laugh, you're sending a completely different message to your body that we're okay. I'm okay. And I say we're okay because when I say we, I mean me and my little girl, because it's my little girl inside that's seeking the love and acceptance, trying to be the perfectionist, trying not to get in trouble, trying to please everybody so that she can get praised and all that. I'm telling me and my little girl, it's okay. We're safe. We can have fun. We can be playful about this. We can laugh about it. Because you know what? Adult Amie is not getting in trouble for this. And if anybody wants to put me in timeout for putting a gallon of milk in the pantry, cool. I got to go take a nap, and that's going to be awesome, right? So it's the changing how you're sending the messages to your body about what you're doing or how you're perceiving things. So laughing at yourself. So maybe like your cell phone. How many times have you set your cell phone down and then you can't find it? You're like, I know it's in this house somewhere, but I don't know where I put it, right? And a lot of people, because I've been there too, a lot of people get all freaked out and stressed out and panicking or whatever. And I just take a breath. I'm like, okay, well, I wasn't in the present moment when I sat it down. I was in a hurry. So I know it's around here somewhere. Angels help me find it. And there it is, shows up. Bada boom. And then I laugh. I'm like, I left it in the bathroom, right? I laugh about it because I want those different messages sent to my body. And my little girl, we're okay.
And it's not so serious. It's not so serious. Quit taking life so seriously, man.
For sure. I'm like past the seriousness. Just like there's people in my immediate environment where I'm just like, well, and I just kind of like, well, that's just how it is, and it's happening for a reason, and we're learning from this, and we're gonna go on, we're gonna keep moving, right? So it seems as if I'm just sloughing it off like it's not a big deal. The fact is, I've learned from it. Okay, we got more knowledge. Let's move forward because now we can do bigger and greater things.
True.
Instead of staying stuck in the problem, right? So solution oriented, learned solution, right? You just keep, so we covered a lot.
We did.
See, for two people who have no idea what they're going to talk about, we bring it. And this is information that's going to be beneficial to your life for years. It's not like just how the world is right now today. Like you can listen to this over and over and over for several years because this is information that is relevant for life.
I mean, there's going to be things that we talked about that you're going to start showing up on the radio, at the magazine stand, stuff on vehicles that are driving around in numbers. It's like the information shows up all the time. I'm always blown away by how, I guess I could say, spirit, the collective consciousness brings forward stuff. I could use an example, med beds. I had heard about it, and then I ended up watching a movie about it, and then it's like it's been actually very prevalent in the last few days. Like stuff keeps popping up about it, how they're going to be coming out and stuff, and it's like you can do your own research with that. It's just funny. It's funny because I'm paying attention, and the information just shows up. So it's like, okay, what kind of questions can I ask about that? What am I going to do with that? What can it do for me? How can I use that? There's just a million different things. What does this even mean? I don't understand. And it's also reminding yourself when you say I know, which we talk about, we bring it up from time to time, you cut yourself off from knowledge. Because there's no way you can know a part of something, but to know all aspects of it, it's not even possible. I don't think life would be boring if that was possible. Like if okay, I got that done. I know. Yeah, because I spent my whole life before always being that teenager. It's like, I know. You need to go do this. Okay, I know. I didn't know. And if and like I said, I might have known processes or aspects of, but I didn't know. So being aware of the words I know, which has been, you could say I'm aware, I realize, find different ways to say what you're trying to say, because there's a million different words out there, but that cuts you off. So be in the receiving mode, asking the questions. And sometimes it's going to be the person that you don't really care to hear the information from, that you probably have used I know a million times, because that's your process of learning how to, for me, was learning how to step away from that or recognize what I was doing to myself. Because it's not, I spent a big part of my life always pointing the finger because it was somebody else's fault, because we started with abuse early on, all that kind of stuff. So it was always somebody else's fault, but that behavior carried on with me for a lot of things, and it was always easy to blame somebody else for the way that I felt when I wasn't even just looking at myself. And it wasn't that I was doing anything wrong. So you're not doing anything wrong. It's just that you're just starting to recognize yourself, dive deeper into it.
And Bev keeps saying, ask the questions and it'll be given. The answers will be given, right? Asking is given is actually a book written by Jerry and Esther Hicks Abraham. And so that's a really good book. They have several exercises in it to start learning to be consistent in ask and receive, ask and receive, ask and receive. The title of the book is Ask and It Is Given. And it gives you more information about how the law of attraction works, how the manifesting works, and this is what we're talking about: is ask the questions, whether it's out loud or internally. Could be in a conversation, like Bev and I could be having a conversation and I ask a question, she's like, yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but you know what, as soon as we get done with our conversation, I could go turn on the radio and my answer comes. I have to be in a receiving mode to get that answer though. So yeah, I recommend that book. It's really cool. So how you feel, Bev, after this conversation?
Oh, I feel good.
We always feel good.
No, it's true. I mean, it's just so crazy the fast forward we can go in life, how fast a lot of some, when you process things and you look at your life, how fast you moved forward, how much of a difference that can make for yourself, and how things are lighter and there's not so much pressure, how it is easier to laugh at yourself, because I do laugh at myself quite often. I mean, I really do. And then someone else will say, what are you laughing about? Oh, well, I just did this or whatever. It's just because it doesn't matter. It's just
My
so
hubby
what?
does that. He's like, are you talking to me? Are you talking to yourself? I said, no, I'm talking to myself and I'm laughing about it.
That's right. That's right.
He's always wanting to know what I'm talking about. I'm like, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to myself.
Yeah. And there's no wrong questions. Gosh, before I was always afraid I was going to do something wrong. There's no wrong question. When you ask the question, then I'll catch myself like, but is that really what I want to know? I mean, because I'll start catching myself. So that's asking the question, is that really what I want to know? So it helps me redefine what I'm looking for. There's no right or wrong way. You're probably already doing all these things. If you're watching us right now, you're already in the process of doing these things. You're already paying attention to your intuition. You're already paying attention to whatever you're guided towards. You may not do it all the time, but you're not going to miss out on the message, because the message is going to keep coming to you over and over and over again until you finally get it.
Oh, sure. And here's what I want to tell you too, is I have people who I've known for a while who I'm friends with on Facebook. And they're like, oh, I see you have, I see your post of your podcast every week. I'm like, okay, great. Are you listening to it? No. And then they proceed to ask me questions about the things we talk about. I said, well, I think you need to go watch podcasts every week. Start now. Just start listening to all the ones behind since we've done them, and keep listening.
Yeah, because those are the subtle messages. That's the stuff to be aware of. It's so subtle like that. You keep seeing, because I don't see our posts hardly ever, unless I go through it. Like if I'm scrolling through, I don't see them, but unless I see them in the side thing, if I go look and see what daily activities were going on or whatever because we share the account and stuff like that. But I don't see it. And it's like, those are the things to recognize, that your people, that conversation that you just had, that you were just saying, how the person saw it over and over and over again. Those are the subtle things like, hey, listen to me, I've got some information for you. You've been asking questions. I've got information. Hey, information's over here. Hey, I'm right here. It's constantly doing that all the time. That's how it is. It's so subtle, but we've trained ourselves into ignoring that. So it's just, all we're doing now is training ourselves, practicing and paying attention to the stuff that's going on around, and allowing that, or receiving, or practicing the receiving. Maybe not allowing is kind of like a power word, but practicing the receiving of things.
And I've found for me that and I'm sure I've talked about this before, it's been a while, but my point of attraction, my manifestation, this is a whole nother topic. So we could go down a whole nother avenue with this and be on here another hour. But just in the framework of ask and it is given, what I've noticed is that I can think something and it comes to fruition. So I have to be very mindful what I'm thinking about. And I'm not kidding about that. Good, bad, or indifferent, I have to be very mindful what I'm thinking about. What I recognize though is when I ask it out loud, it's faster.
Got more energy behind it, in my belief.
Yep. And I'll be like, okay, universe or archangel so and so, can you give me some more clarity on this? Like asking it out loud. And it's okay, universe, or angels or God I have this bill coming up and I want to pay it off. Here's the balance. Okay. Here you go. Here you go. There it is. You got it. It's coming. I'm like, wow. You can be playful with it. It can be a game. It can be fun. It can be exciting. But being open to receive. So ask and receive. Ask and receive. Ask and receive. That's our job. Ask, receive, ask, receive, ask, receive. Nobody is better than you to have more than you. And you are not put on this earth to be in the trenches, in the mud, in the quicksand, reliving all the shit that happened to you. This is not what you're meant for.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was going to say purpose. As we're having this conversation, when you look for your purpose, it almost seems like you've narrowed down what you think it should be when it's everything.
It's everything.
It is.
It's everything.
It's unlimited. It's everything. I can do anything. I can do whatever I want.
Absolutely. So that's our message today. Ask and receive.
Yes.
And know, well, as we started in the beginning, what I wanted to really bring forth today was, if you're asking questions about your shitty life, then be open to the guidance of moving in a direction that feels better and start practicing. You got to practice it. You can't receive the information and not do anything with it if you're expecting something new, something different, a breath of fresh air. If you're in a room that stinks and is horrible, then go outside and get a breath of fresh air. You have to move. You have to do something different. And so with that, that's what I got today.
Awesome. Awesome. And then the easiest thing is, how can I get better than this? It doesn't matter if you're in what you would think that is a positive or negative. You can ask the question anytime, how can I get better than this?
Even where Bev and I are right now, we could say that. How can I get better than this?
Exactly, because then it shows you more, because we don't know. Because we have a limit on what that better could be. But when we ask how can, that limit gets a lot higher. There is no limit now. We're open to receiving.
Or I got to figure this out. I got to figure out how to make it better than this. No, that's like saying it. It's all on my shoulders. No, I have a whole spiritual team that's ready, willing, and able to help me. I'm saying, how can this be even better than it is now?
That's right.
And you know what? My belief in me, that I'm worthy of it. Yes. I'm worthy of it. And we've had conversations about that too, just so you know. Y'all need to go listen to the podcast. If you're new to this, or even you've been with us and listening every week, go listen again. Right? Just go.
Yes.
Listen again. Start over and keep listening, because you're going to get more information when you listen to it over and over and over. It's the way it works. Yes. And there's a lot of messages we have given. As spirit works through us, we're working for you. That was great.
That's nice.
That was almost like a commercial. Okay. See, I entertain myself all the time. Doesn't matter to me if you like that or not. I can laugh about it. That's awesome. Again, if you're just listening to audio, you need to watch the video, because there's a lot of great movement in the video. So, all right, we're good.
We're good.
We're good. All right, my friends, thank you for being with us. Tea Time with Amie and Bev, sharing your valuable time with us, listening. I hope you're getting information that's beneficial to your life, helping you move in a different direction that feels good. and just opening those doors for you through our wisdom. I love that word, wisdom. It sounds so good. So cool. And we're going to be here next week.
Yeah. So enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the journey and go laugh at yourself. Just laugh at yourself.
Yes.
All right. Take care. We'll see you next week.
Okay. See ya.